I'm being haunted by a stray cat. So here's the backstory. About 2 or 3 months ago, 2 stray cats started eating from the bowl of food I set out for my niece's outdoors cat. I checked online to see if they had posted as lost, and I found no cats lost that resembled either of them. I decided to befriend them and tried to find them a good home. My initial attempts at petting them were met with a hasty retreat. Eventually, they stopped running and let me pet them. They seemed friendly enough, and I began calling them Sammy and Goldie. Sammy was a gray with black markings, and definitely part Bengal and was very pretty. Goldie was golden yellow, and her face resembles Great Morris the cat from the 9 Lions cat food. She's honestly one of the most beautiful cats I'd ever seen. We had really began making progress with them, and Sammy was ready to start finding a home for. Goldie was still going to be a while. On Saturday, Sammy cat died. Possible of an infection that I didn't become aware of until too late. On Friday night around 7 o'clock, my son found Sammy lying unresponsive on the ground, next to an old truck in our backyard. I brought her in and cleaned her up, cooled her off. She had been lying in the sun, and put her in an animal cage overnight so I could take her to a vet, but the next morning she was dead. Ever since then, when I sit out on my porch, I catch glimpses of a cat from the corner of my eye. But I turn to look at it, and nothing is there. It's starting to freak me out. Why I hate working the closing shift. I started working at a local pet mart as a cashier and stalker, and so far everything has been great, except for this one experience. A few nights ago, when working on one of my 9-hour shifts, I was asked by my manager to stay later since an employee had to call out for an emergency. This other employee calls out often, so I wasn't surprised and had already prepared to stay longer. When we close, there are 3 people that are there, a manager and 2 employees. I did the usual closing shift duties, such as grabbing carts from the lot, cleaning up the station, straightening, etc., and everything seemed fine, until my manager and my coworker went to the office to finish the closing papers and such. I was straightening up one of the aisles when on the intercom came a female voice I didn't recognize saying, "Manager to register 1, please," which is how we communicate that we need a manager. I thought it was the other worker maybe, but once I got up to the front, I saw that there was absolutely no one there. At first, I thought maybe the manager was near her without her realizing it, so they both just went off to do whatever they want. But then I was surprised when I saw the 2 of them walk out of the office together with papers and keys in hand. They asked if I needed something, and I said no, and that I thought it was maybe one of them, but they swore neither of them did it. A little creepy, but whatever. I went back to my work and didn't think much about it until I heard it happen again. This time, though, the voice seemed more annoyed, I'd say. Kind of like when you're with a customer for over 10 minutes, waiting on a manager to show up. I didn't go up to look this time, because I was actually frozen where I was. I have had many experiences with the paranormal, but this freaked me out a little bit, because you almost never get a voice that clear on anything. The 2 once again came out of the office, asking where I was, and at this point, I'm in the back of the store, throwing things in the garbage and putting broken items in the bin. So they were pretty freaked out at this point. The manager tells the other employee to stay out with me just in case, and she goes back into the office, obviously shaken. The manager comes out about 10 minutes later to go to the cat room to check on water, litter, and a few other things, while the other employee and I are now in the front, just kinda talking and taking care of the small pets. We were laughing about something a customer had asked earlier, when suddenly, a row of about 5 carts comes storming through the front door from the cart area we have. Now, this scared the shit out of us We ran to the cat room to tell the manager, and her eyes opened wide. We all grabbed our bags and keys from our lockers in the break room and said, okay, we're gonna lock everything up as fast as we can and get the fuck out. We grabbed everything, went out onto the main floor, and I swear to God, we all saw a woman with long brown hair, wearing a PetSmart uniform, standing in the salon window. We lost our shit and quickly locked everything, but before we could run out, the intercom comes on again and starts making this loud crackling noise. I asked the manager and I asked my coworker if that happened before, and they both said no. I've had these last 2 days off since that happened, and tomorrow I have the closing shift with the same manager and coworker. I wonder if we'll experience it again, or even something worse. Now, to be really honest, I'm generally scared just thinking about it. Update: September 15, 2015. So the other night, I worked the closing shift again, and we had a few new things happen. When we didn't hear anything on the intercom, we thought that maybe it was done, and that we had nothing else to worry about until our birds started freaking out. My coworker and I ran over to see what happened, and it appeared that they were just spooked by something. Well, we managed to calm them down and left the birdhouse and continue on our tasks. Mine was grabbing carts from outside. I was coming back with a row of carts, and I look in the front at the same woman, looking at the birds, just staring at them. I ran in and told my coworker, and she freaked out. So we quickly finished everything, but we were worried about the animals. So before leaving, my manager yelled, "We're leaving now, leave the animals alone." And no response, so we left. I stalked the next morning, and when we came in, there were carts strewn about the store. I don't know, guys. It's getting freaky here. The Lost Time on Spook Lane. This isn't the most impressive, scary thing that's happened to me, but it's definitely spooky and unexplainable. Since I'm sort of reliving these stories, I figured I might as well write about them all and get them out there. As a teen, we're talking 1996 here, me and a few friends went through that let's go ghost hunting phase. On this particular night, there were 3 of us. We had heard stories about the ghost on Angelica Lake, which is a small park with a lake near Reading, PA. If you've ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, then you've seen this lake. Shyamalan shot the scenes at the lake where the kid is bending water. Anyways, we drove to Angelica Lake around 8 p.m. or so. It was summertime, and the sun hadn't fully gone down yet. I remember we waited there from dusk until it was full dark, around 9 p.m. or so. The 3 of us walked around the lake, hoping to see something manifest out of the water, but nothing happened. We didn't hang out long, so it was roughly 10 p.m. when we decided to move on. The next stop was called Spook Lane, located about 25 minutes away, in a rural town called Ole, PA. This road was another urban legend everyone in the area had heard about, but this is where shit started getting really weird that night. So, we arrived at Spook Lane, you can Google it, before 11 p.m. at night. We didn't stop anywhere along the way, like no places. We just left Angelica Lake and drove right there, straight there. Now, it's called Spook Lane, and the road is really named that. But I since tried to locate the exact spot where this happened, and I don't think the road that it happened on is technically Spook Lane, but rather a road that connects to the side of it. Anyways, for the sake of the story, and given that Google Maps didn't exist way back then in 1996 to everyone involved, we were on Spook Lane. Keep in mind that This area is way out in the sticks. There are acres of agricultural land, but also heavily wooded areas as well. Along this road are several really old busted up vacant houses from like the 1800s. They're in total disrepair and crumbling in on themselves, and from the outside, they look like your quintessential haunted houses. Teens had long visited this area and added many great things to the area, such as graffiti, pentagrams, etc., like dumb teen shits do on already scary locations to help make them scarier and more of a thrill, I guess. So we drive down Spook Lane, and the area turns from rural, where there are a few houses here and there, to heavy, heavy woods. My buddy who is driving points out one of the scary-looking houses on the left side of the road, and said that there is always a light in one of the upper windows, but as you can see, the house itself is totally broken down and vacant. So what is the cause of the light? You know, that kind of spooky thing. Well, this night, there was indeed a light in the window. He also said that some kind of spirit takes over your car when you're out there, so you can't get away. The rest of us just shrug it off at the time. We keep driving, maybe 2,000 feet, and come to an area where there's two broken down spooky houses almost across the street from each other. So we stop and get out. Of course, there's broken furniture in the front yards, graffiti, melted candle wax from previous teens, etc. We decide to go into one of the houses, the one that looked kind of stable and almost kind of safe. We look around and go out the back door. There are woods and basically nothing out there but acres and acres of that. Then we all of a sudden hear a distant dog bark. Then another. Then several dogs go apeshit in the distance. Then we hear something large charging towards us. It wasn't a dog, because their barks didn't get louder. And whatever this thing was, it sounded real big. The ground actually felt like thuds getting stronger. So of course, we came looking for thrills and a scare, and we got it. We hightail it back to the car and jump inside. No idea what is coming at us, but we're not sticking around to find out. My buddy starts a car, and we take off in the direction we came. But after a few hundred feet, the car slows down. I'm sitting shotgun, and I'm yelling to my friend to get us the hell out of there. But the car won't go faster than like 10 miles per hour. I tell him to smash the gas pedal, and I watch him do it, but the car will not speed up. I make sure his other foot isn't on the brake pedal, and it's not. I make sure the car is in drive, and it is. He's smashing the pedal down, but the car doesn't even rev. It just creeps along a 10-mile-per-hour rate, or whatever slow speed, the whole way down the road, until we can get to that old creepy house with a light in the upper window, and cross beyond it. Then all of a sudden, the car takes off, because my friend's foot was smashed down to the floor the whole time. There wasn't much real concrete, physical proof of this being anything more than urban legends, some overactive imaginations, and a shitty car. So, I don't know what it chalked us up as. However, we went to an all-nighter diner about 20 minutes away to debrief and talk about what just happened. When we looked at the clock in the lobby, we realized it was after 3 a.m. We couldn't account for the past 4 hours. I mean, it doesn't sound like what I explained could have taken more than 30 minutes tops. But for some reason, we lost 4 hours on Spook Lane that night. That was probably the scariest part of it. Being generous with the timetable, it was something like this. 8 to 10 p.m., Angelica Lake, waiting for sundown, etc. 10 p.m. to 10:30, drive to Spook Lane. 10:30 to 2 a.m. This should have been 30 to 45 minutes tops. Can't account for this time. 2:30 a.m. to 3 a.m. Drive to the diner. 3 a.m. to 3:15 or so. We arrive at the diner.